What's up, everybody? Welcome, dissidents one and all, to a Thursday afternoon edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular once again.
Hola!
Hola.
Hola, amigos y amigas y otras.
Coming in a little hot. Move the mic away a little bit. I know you're not going to scream the whole time, but you know, you should have an intro with.
We don't want to get that criticism again.
You should put tape marks down on your table for intro. Back and then pull it forward
for my blocking.
Yeah, blocking. Right? So they call
blocking for my podcast.
They call that hitting the marks in the business. Hit your marks. Hit your marks. Hit your marks.
I am just gonna say, if you're ever in Buffalo, this is like the best mug I've ever owned.
Yeah, that's a really nice mug. I have a nice mug here too. Well, it's a big mug. I'm not privileging the font here because the font, you're gonna think I'm a sissy. This is a major lib mug. See, it says live, laugh,
love. Oh, no.
So I turn it away. I turn it away from the camera so that people are not subjected to that messaging every time I take a sip. But I do need coffee today.
That's a wise choice with our audience.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So don't worry. I got everybody covered. Although now my secret is ruined because you're on to me. But I gave myself up, so that's all right. Folks.
You gave it away.
I want to start by thanking our patrons and paid Substack subscribers. You guys help keep the show going. We have 2 new patrons this week. A guy who calls himself Beef T. I don't know if Beef is your legal name, but thank you, Beef, for sharing some of that beef with us. You know, we got a little bit of that beef, so thank you very much.
Well,
and then Seth C is a good friend of mine. Thank you, my friend,
has an
for
illegitimate
signing
son,
up.
Doesn't he?
Yeah. Beef T and Seth C are our new patrons, so we want to thank you guys very much for signing up. We will
get you all. We will get you all.
Yeah, anybody who can sign up, like we said, you know, patrons are what make us able to do these streams when we can, especially the afternoon streams. We only added these streams because we figure, all right, we'll squeeze it in after work. But, you know, I cut work short an hour early when I come to do this, so this is what I mean, right? It's zero sum. Right, the more money we get in for the patrons, the more we can do. All right, so thank you guys very much for that. We have limited time this afternoon. We want to do a tight show. We want to pull this in pretty close to an hour. We have limited time for very good reason, and that is that at 5:30 p.m., a little less than 90 minutes from now, we are going to be interviewing 2 railroad workers from one of the unions that is threatening to strike. And so we wanted to interview them as soon as possible. They said they can make some time for us. They have very specific timing because they are on the job right now. But we are going to be interviewing those guys at 5:30, and that interview will premiere tonight on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern. So I hope you guys will all tune in for that. We're really looking forward to that. We are recording this, doing this live stream right now as the Senate has voted unanimously to allow the 2 bills out of the House to be voted on. And so what that means is that Union Joe seems to have been successful in busting up a railroad strike. That's the short of it.
We're gonna have to start calling him Pinkerton Joe.
Pinkerton Joe, right? Exactly. I saw somebody made a great meme on Twitter, which is, you know, the Shepard Ferry Obama poster, and underneath it said scab. I thought that was good.
That is good.
I thought that was good. But we are going to get into more detail about what exactly is going on and how. We'll do that in just a moment. Our patron Bippin is on the line right now. You are muted, my friends. If at any point in this show you would like to say something, just unmute your microphone. We will admit you, and we would like to hear from you. Patrons and paid Substack subscribers have call-in access to this show. I may as well get one more plug in while we're at it. We just put out some patron-exclusive material, including a special on the forthcoming House investigations when the House goes under Republican control. We also recorded a test episode of the Dissident Film Club, a sort of test segment where we sort of mused on the sort of collectivist politics of It's a Wonderful life. And we are going to release a couple more test episodes of the Dissident Film Club for patrons only this month before debuting the segment to the public in January. And the theme is going to be Christmas movies. So we're going to break down a few of our favorite Christmas films over this month for our patrons. So if you are interested in seeing some of those and giving us feedback and helping us sort of craft the show, please do that. Our next film that we're going to talk about is a great black
we're also
comedy.
aren't we doing our Young Turks tribute and rating celebrity genitals?
Oh, well, that we have to make public because that's going to do well.
That will
bring in
do
the
well.
bacon,
No,
yes.
but that's why we want to keep it for the patrons.
Oh,
Become
right.
a
That's why we gotta
patron. You get
withhold
to
it.
see us
See that?
do old school Young Turks.
Right, with the camel toe and all that shit.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Talk about who will do,
Yeah, right. The next film we're talking about in the film club is The Ice Harvest, which is a little-known 2005 black comic caper starring John Cusack, Oliver Platt, Billy Bob Thornton, and Randy Quaid. Really fun sort of little cult movie that we'll be talking about in a couple weeks. So watch that, find a way to stream that, and then join up, patreon.com/do dissidents.
All right, I gotta ask. Are you a Scientologist? Because I talk a lot of shit.
Well, we're going on Extra Bullish show on Monday, so we'll be able to find out.
Ask them. And here is the best advertising we can get for our patron segments. Word of mouth. The National Review episode was great. I imitated William F. Buckley no less than twice, maybe 3 times.
That's true. Russell did his William F. Buckley impression. All right. Well, thank you very much, She Nebraskan. All right. We got our plugs in. We got everything ready to go. All right. Let's get down to business here. So I feel like it falls to independent media to sort of tell the whole story of what is going on with this railroad strike. Or would-be railroad strike. It looks like I said, Union Joe has successfully busted that, right? In September, the railroad unions and the railroad bosses formed a tentative, that's a key word, so everybody remember that word, a tentative agreement to avert a railroad strike for, I suppose it was 90 days, because they came to that agreement in early September, and that agreement was set to expire, and they were set to strike early this month here as we are live streaming. The calendar has turned to December, right? And so the basis for that tentative agreement, what that essentially was the Democrats asking their friends in the labor unions, because even though a lot of rank and file has defected, they've become Trump people, right? A lot of unions are still more or less allies with the Democratic Party. The Democrats came to the unions and said, we can't have a strike before the midterms because it'll just crush us, right? I mean, that will just decimate us if there is a railroad strike and the economy tanks right before November 8th. So we need you to help us out here. We need you to sign a tentative agreement to kick the can down the road 90 days, after which you will have the opportunity to renegotiate your contract and try to get yourselves paid sick leave, right? So this is the ultimate bait and switch, because now after the midterms are over and the unions are set to have this out, which could end in a strike or it could end in them getting the basic benefits that they want and need. Just as they are about to have this out, Joe Biden steps in and says, no, we're calling on Congress. We are invoking a century-old law which allows Congress to intervene in these matters when it comes to railroads, because railroads are, of course, vital to the functioning of the overall system. We are invoking that law, and we are passing a bill imposing the terms of the so-called tentative agreement. What's happening here is nothing short of diabolical. It is psychotically evil. This is a screwing over of these unions like we have not seen in quite some time. It's really incredible that they did this. This was a bait and switch. Now let me go ahead.
I appreciate the classics. So the Democratic Party kicking the unions in the teeth. I mean, there's like Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
This is a classic Democratic Party song. What's amazing is that so many unions still think the Democratic Party is not going to do this to them. Democratic Party has been doing this to them since Clinton got elected.
Absolutely.
They're not on your side. They're not with you. And I understand the unions are in this really trapped between two mob bosses, and you got to decide which one is going to mutilate you least. But there's no reason, which many union members have figured out over the decades. There's no reason to support the Democrats. They're not going to do shit for you. The only reason to support them is the same reason a lot of people in marginalized communities support the Democrats, out of fear of what the other side will do. It's the same reason they won the midterms or didn't do as badly in the midterms as they were expected to do. That it was, if you look at the exit polls, there's no support for the Democrats. There was no love of the Democrats. It was just pure fear of what would happen if the other side were in charge. And that's it. So they keep supporting the Democrats so they don't get something worse from the Republicans. And to make a fair argument, sure, if the Republicans were in charge, it would be worse. They would actually give them something less than the contract that they negotiated. They were looking at doing that over the summer. So yes, it would be worse, but that doesn't mean this is good. It's just a race to the bottom. At one time, and this is so long ago now, I think especially younger people, they don't realize this or remember it. Unions used to be the principal fundraisers and foot soldiers for the Democratic Party. Those were the people who really went out and busted their asses to get Democrats elected. And that is where NAFTA is really the original sin of the modern Democratic Party. Because once they passed NAFTA, they lost their foot soldiers. They lost their army. They freed a lot of those people up to drift to the Republican Party or to just stop voting altogether. That was the secret of Trump's election, actually. He got a lot of those working class people who had completely stopped voting because they weren't going to vote for a Mitt Romney. They would just not vote at all, given those choices, lured them back into the electoral system, got them to come out and vote for him on what were, in the end, empty promises. But they hadn't heard a Democrat really address their pain in many decades. Now, Clinton was a master of invoking that word and then causing more of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of these rank and file have voted Democrat for the last time. And that you could say that after a lot of these actions. You're right. NAFTA was where it started. NAFTA was a long time ago now. Which means that in the minds of a lot of younger people, especially younger libs, who cry racism when the working class votes for Trump or votes GOP, they don't understand how much this hurts. Well, now, I mean, we should all bookmark this right now because this is an open slap in the face to these union workers. After promising to be the most pro-labor president in history, ha. And after telling them 3 months ago, hey, do us a favor here. This is only temporary. You'll get to renegotiate in a few months. So let's get to Mayor Pete, or I'm sorry, Secretary Pete. All due respect to this wonderful man here. Here's what he tweets out a few days ago, trying to rally support for this intervention to crush a labor action. In the U.S. transportation system, there is no substitute for a functioning freight rail network. I would know because I'm an expert in transportation, as you all know. I'm 100% qualified for this job. I did not get this job simply because I was a willing co-conspirator in the screwing over of Bernie Sanders in the 2020 primary. No, I know.
Or because I
am an authority on transportation, right?
I'm not a diversity hire or anything.
Right. It's not like I'm a diversity hire who's getting this as a prize for helping the party screw Bernie. I'm a real expert. A shutdown would be devastating for workers and farmers across America. POTUS is calling on Congress to enact the deal that union leaders and companies reached at the bargaining table.
Yeah, I love how these douches, they're so slippery, the way they phrased everything. So he's trying to make it sound like we're just enforcing what the union wants.
Well, that's what it is. He's saying they had a deal. This is why I emphasized earlier the word tentative. They had a tentative agreement that they were willing to go through with as a favor to Biden and the Democratic Party so that the economy didn't tank before the midterms. They didn't want to strike before the midterms. And so this tentative agreement came with the promise that unions would be able to renegotiate after the election, i.e. now. And now you're taking that away from them and saying, no, 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 after the election is Christmas time, and we can't have a strike at Christmas time. And so you're not going to be able to negotiate for paid sick leave now for years. It's going to be at least 2 years now before they get to negotiate for paid sick leave.
Well, not only that, I don't think people realize what hellish conditions they're working in. They're putting 2-man crews on 3-mile-long trains. This is another example of how capitalism at this point, late-stage capitalism, is a danger to everyone's lives.
Of course it is.
It is dangerous to run trains like this. When you have a government that's this captured by industry pretty much has a free hand to kill you, right? Who's going to stop them? Look what happened with Boeing. And you see anyone go to jail? Those people should have gone to jail. They knew those planes weren't safe, and they put them up in the air, and then they covered it up and kept flying them after they had crashes until they were forced to stop. Did you see anybody go to prison for that? No.
Well, no, of course not. Well, look, public safety concerns aside, not that those are invalid, those are absolutely valid.
You have half the number of rail workers now that you had in 1980, and you don't have less trains.
And those rail workers, they have fewer workers, increased profits, almost double.
Right.
Their profit margins have doubled this
They're not
decade
hurting.
over last decade.
Yeah.
$27 billion in profits last year these railroad companies made. They're cutting staff, which is, as Russell said, risking accidents, creating dangerous situations. But the cutting of staff has led to this increase, this massive increase in corporate profits.
Right.
Paid sick leave would cost them 1% of profits, not 1% overall, cost them 1 penny of every dollar in profit. They are not willing to do it. The union tries to get them to do it back in September. The Democrats say, no, please don't make too much noise about this now. There's a vote coming up. We don't want to get our asses kicked. The union says, okay, fine. We're on your team. We'll wait a few months. And then they do this to them. Then they override them in the 11th hour. Yep. Despicable, disgusting. And the gaslighting from this little piece of garbage to say that this is an agreement that the union leaders and the companies reached. They reached it under duress and or as a favor to you guys.
Well, what he should really do is what he did to black voters in his campaign and just claim to have gotten support from union members he ate in the same restaurant with.
Right, because they didn't email me back saying, no,
we
don't
email back.
It.
I asked them if they supported the deal. I didn't hear back. So
I said on my way out the door,
100%,
email me if you have a problem with this.
Yeah, 100% support, actually, because nobody emailed me.
Yeah. Anyway, this was, like I said, when was this tweet? I think this was on November 25th, if I am not mistaken. Oh, no, that was the 29th. Wow, that was 2 days ago. Wow. I didn't realize it was that recent. But anyway, we thought perhaps, ha, 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 once again, wink, 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 the progressives may have had a plan to try and deal with this, to try and fight back against this. We thought maybe that happened.
I did not. If you remember the first segment we did on this.
Well, that's what I'm winking, right? That's right. I mean, we kind of figured what was coming. But we did have Jamal Bowman say, listen, this was the same day that Pete sent that out.
This is amazing to me.
I can't in good conscience vote for a bill that doesn't give rail workers the paid leave they deserve. We fumbled this in Build Back Better. We can't do that again.
Oh, you don't say.
Here's what happened. Okay, they said, we're not going to vote for a bill that doesn't give rail workers the paid sick leave that they need. So what the House does is the House basically passes two bills. They pass the bill that Biden wants, and then they pass an amendment bill calling for paid sick leave to be added into the terms that Congress will now enforce, right? And what happens? What happens?
Now that's the real Sopranos, man.
Here's the real
There must have been a whole meeting with Pelosi. One last job we need from you. We got to split this legislation.
They split it in half. And what happened in Build Back Better? What was the fumbling that Jamal Bowman referred to? right? The fumbling was they said they weren't going to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill until Build Back Better passed alongside it. We can't pass both because the Senate can then take one and not the other, and that would fuck us up, right? So Jamal Bowman says, in as many words, we've learned our lesson there. We're not going to do this again. Well, guess what happens? All of the Democrats in the House, except for eight Democrats in the House, voted against the Biden proposal that did not have paid sick leave. All the Democrats voted for the paid sick leave bill. There were 8 who split that vote. Yes on paid sick leave, no on the bill without paid sick leave. So let's see the names of the Democrats who voted no, on the bill that Jamal Bowman promised to vote no on. Jamal Bowman says, I cannot in good conscience vote for a bill that doesn't give rail workers the paid leave they deserve. We fumbled this in Build Back Better. We can't do that again. So surely his name is going to be on this list of no votes, right? He certainly voted no on the very bill he just promised he was going to vote no on 2 days ago, right? Let's see. The 8 Democrats who voted no on the bill to avert a rail strike by forcing workers to accept the labor agreement. It's funny, I don't see Bowman's name on this list. Do you? Am I overlooking it? I want to be sure I checked it.
That word, good conscience. You keep saying it. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yeah, no, good conscience. Right, right. His name's not on here, is it? You have Peltola, who just beat Sarah Palin. She's on there. Jared Golden is on there. He's a right-wing Democrat from Maine. He's on there. Mark Pocan is on there. Rashida Tlaib is on there. This guy, Norcross, I've never heard of. DeSaulnier, never heard of. Chu, I think I know who that is. And then Richie Torres, kind of a shit-lib Democrat. He voted no.
Yeah.
So a very broad but small coalition of Democrats voted no. Jamal Bowman's name's not on there. AOC's name's not on there. Ilhan Omar's name's not on there. They all voted. This was a symbolic vote that they couldn't even. This vote passed with 290 votes. So in fairness to Bowman, he didn't have the power to stop it. But you would think if you're going to come out and say, I cannot in good conscience vote for a bill that doesn't give rail workers the paid leave they deserve, you would think his name would be on this list, no?
No. In theory, I think he had a dinner. I think he had a dinner when they were doing that vote. He had a dinner he had to be at. He had a prior engagement. These people have no shame. I always wonder if, they have a phrase in Washington that they use on these people. We're going to do a Wellstone on you if you don't vote for this. And then that's it. They all fall in line. For those who don't know, notoriously left-wing, particularly for that period. This was the height of the powers of the New Democrats. Paul
he had
Wellstone,
an RFK job.
He died. Yeah, he died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
So
the old
in Washington, I always wonder
that was before RFK,
if they just
Or
use that
after.
as a verb. We're gonna Wellstone you.
That was right around the same time as RFK, wasn't it?
No. Oh no. That was way after.
Because Franken ended up running.
Wellstone was like 80s, 90s, maybe even 90s.
It must have been 90s because
I think it
Franken
was
ended
90s.
up winning his seat. So it was okay.
Yeah,
So it was close.
No,
it was close.
To RFK. RFK is 1968.
No. I'm sorry. Wrong one. RFK Jr., the guy who was going to run for Senate. Of course, a certain former president's wife wanted that seat, and so he died in a plane crash. That was RFK Jr.
You're talking about JFK Jr.
Oh, JFK. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I fucked that up. See, there's too many Kennedys getting, I confused it. I apologize about that.
In all fairness,
I want to be accurate in my conspiratorial theorizing here.
You have to be accurate in your conspiracy theories if you don't want to get flagged by the algorithm. You have to pick the right conspiracy theories. In fairness, JFK Jr. was a fucking jackass who got his wife killed. He was a jackass. They told him not to take the plane up. It was foggy. Experienced pilots didn't go up that day. I'm a Kennedy. I can handle it. There's no Kennedy curse. There's a Kennedy arrogance. Oh yeah, let me just ski down that mountain full on. I'm not an expert, but I got this. Hits a tree.
Bippin, who is our patron in the studio here, he sent us a private chat. I read a few articles today to understand the point of the 2 separate votes. To be fair, only CNN article explained that Senate can take up the first bill without the separate measure for 7 days sick leave. Well, no, they're taking up. I mean, yes, they could have not take. They could choose to take up one and not the other. They took up all three. Schumer is, of course, going to posture that they need to pass all of them. There were three, actually. There was one that wanted to kick the can down the road another 80 days, I think. That already went down, I think, 26 to 69. All right. But the two that matter are the Biden version with no paid sick leave and then the, progressive version with the paid sick leave, right? They took all of them up. Obviously, Schumer is going to advocate to pass the one with the sick leave. All the Democrats are going to vote yes on that, but they're not going to have enough because enough GOPers are going to vote no on it that only one is going to pass, and they know only one is going to pass. Josh Gottheimer admitted it in an interview.
Right.
He said, yeah, no, this is an important statement
but it's
to make.
important that we're making
right. It's important to make a statement that we support sick leave, even though we are 100% certain it will fail. Yeah.
Because in the end, they're all in line to be rich if they're not rich already. And that's what it comes down to. In the end, they're not going to jeopardize their standing. They're not going to jeopardize their position. And why would they? It's so much easier to be corrupt. Everyone around them is corrupt. So why take a stand? And the media has your back. It's not like even the media, which is supposed to be the public's advocate, it's not like even the media is going to hold you to account. So why not? Why not? Are they reporting on Bowman's hypocrisy? I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they're not. So what does he care? But
of course. They get a free pass.
He cares about us alternative media people who are paying attention. They don't give a fuck.
Look, they would have needed, in order to stop this, they would have needed a senator to deny unanimous consent to move forward, which would have delayed this bill, hopefully, until past the point where they could strike. Okay, that's what they would have needed in order to do something. They did not get that. They did not get that. It's very unlikely that would have worked anyway, because Schumer would not have gone along with it. You need the permission of party leadership to really make that work. And of course, they didn't have it. Bottom line is you have a government that is bought, both Democrats and the GOP. They are both bought by the interests that want to hoard 100% of all new profits for themselves and their shareholders. They will not give up one penny of every dollar of corporate profit so that their workers, who are already overstressed because they have cut staff and overworked, they will not give up one penny of any dollar of profit to make sure that when a worker is sick, they can stay home and get paid 15 days per year. And the bottom line is that this is capitalism unleashed on the world. Yeah, I've made this point before. They would not have been able to get away with this during the Cold War, because there was fear of a communist movement in the United States. Right. And you would see a lot of hammers and sickles in the air if they tried to pull this shit 30 years ago. Since the end of history, since the fall of the wall, there's nothing stopping these people from doing this. There is nothing in their way. Nothing except us. I wasn't going to play this yet. I was going to play this at the end of this segment, but now is a good time to play this guy. I guess he didn't want his name known, but he recorded this video for More Perfect Union. This is the only answer if there's any hope.
You work as a teacher, and I work as because you work as a teacher, and I work as a railroader, and he works as a trucker, and she works as a nurse, and he works in a coffee shop. We're all part of the working people that make society run. We're all part of the working class that produces the wealth. And without us, nothing could happen. And so when one of us is under attack, we're all under attack. When one sector of us fights back, we all need to support that struggle and see it as our own. And so I would say to every working person in this country, whether you work on the railroad or not, if and when there is a strike anywhere amongst any craft or any industry, you as a working person should be there to support it in whatever ways you can. And so I would encourage all working people to have our back if and when we go on strike.
That's it. That's it. That's the only answer. These politicians are sluts in suits. That's all they are. That's all they are.
Yep.
And no matter which party they're in, the bottom line is there are more of them in government than there are anyone with any principle whatsoever. And at this point, it's unclear whether any of them have any principle, because the ones who took a so-called stand on this did so knowing it would fail. A stand would have been denying unanimous consent. I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. He should have done what he could. And like I said, I'm not saying the outcome would have been different.
Bernie,
you say there's
Bernie
no
Sanders,
votes. There's no votes. There's no votes until we do this. That's what you had to say. Not we're going to get enough votes.
Do that.
There's not going to be a vote. Right.
You won't do that. Everything you need to know about Bernie Sanders, you only need to know one thing about Bernie Sanders. He lives in terror of getting nadered. That's it. If they have something like that over your head, you're bought. You're bought. That's it. You're effectively bought. You're effectively bought because you're never going to really stand in their way when it counts. Bernie knows what would be coming his way if he really took stands like that.
Right. This is what Chris just said about Bernie.
They would move heaven and earth to destroy that man's life.
Well, they would fund a Democrat against him in Vermont.
Not just
they
that,
don't fund
they would
a Democrat
start digging
against him
into whatever happened with that college with his wife, which you noticed that went away. They really didn't dig into it too much. Why, you think they didn't talk to him about that? Hey, man, you could play ball or we could look into this.
Let me get to this. We almost missed this one. Thank you, Mount Dew Ramen. I like that name. If they actually hired enough people to cover his floating coverage, they might actually be safer anyway, but we can't have that. Well, no, they can't. I mean, look, maybe perhaps one of the reasons they don't do that is because the union won't allow for that, right? I mean, what they want is to work full time, make decent money, and get a few sick days. That's what they want. And I mean, you're talking about an incredibly minor concession from capital to labor, and they won't make it. Right. They won't make it because they know they don't have to. They know they don't have to. And part of the game
as long as Washington is not look, if Biden had signaled that he's really going to be a union guy, if you don't agree to this, you know what? We're going to force you to agree with it, and we'll make it more generous. But they would have signed it in 5 seconds.
Well, this is the other thing.
But they knew as you say, they knew they didn't have to. They knew who was in the White House. The senator from MBNA, right?
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's just completely hopeless, right? I mean, there just is no solution to be found in Washington for this problem. There is none. Because the system will not allow for it. Now, when you have, like we said, you have Pete coming out saying this was a deal that they had, ignoring the fact that it was a tentative deal. The other major point here that you have to think about, and this is something that is nowhere to be seen on corporate media, CNN, MSNBC, nobody will tell you this. This has been said on independent media. That's why we feel like we have to devote most of our hour to this, because you won't find this anywhere else. You won't find this if you watch TV. CNN is acting as if there is a choice to be had here. This is what Biden is saying too, right? And obviously CNN, despite this, shift in management, right? Ultimately, when both parties are owned by the same corporate masters,
the shift in management just means you're probably going to see a little less about how many genders fit on the head of a pin.
Right.
But when it comes to serving corporate power, there's no.
Well,
shift.
That's the thing. It's less naked partisanship. But of course, this is an issue with broad bipartisan support. This is an issue where Schumer and McConnell are more or less in lockstep. They know they're in lockstep on what matters. Schumer's going to come out and pose that he wants the paid sick leave, but McConnell is not going to go for that, right? But they're both in lockstep. We need to pass a bill. That's what McConnell said in that meeting. We're going to have to pass a bill, right? Anyway, Biden and the media will both have the public believe that this is a really tough call. I think Biden even said this is a tough call, but we have to do this.
He really
By
wrestled
tough
with
call,
it. Yeah.
What he means is we have to decide between imposing this anti-union contract or crashing the economy, right? He's saying that we either have to impose the current tentative agreement or there's going to be a strike and everything is going to go to hell. What nobody will tell you is that there is a third option, which is that Congress could intervene on behalf of the unions and impose paid sick leave. That is something that they won't tell you. They act as if people who are taking the union side, like we are, that we want a railroad strike. No, we don't necessarily want a railroad strike. Ideally, we would avert a strike. You know how we would avert a strike? If pro-labor union Joe would intervene and say, hey, we're not having a strike before the holidays. Fuck that. Railroad bosses, you're giving them 15 days sick leave. Bang. Gavel on the table. Done. Done.
Yep.
You intervene on the workers' behalf. That's what we want. We don't want to strike.
Right. Well, that's what's so scummy.
Drinking water. They act like, oh, the chemicals aren't going to get to the water treatment plants if there's a strike. So if you're on the union side, you're willing to impose all these dire
In Flint, they'll be like, welcome to the family.
Yeah, right, exactly. But that's not what we're advocating. No. You want to intervene to stop this? Fine. Do it on the workers' terms. That's what you promised. You promised to be the most pro-labor president in history. And instead, you are now going to go down in history as being the guy to really break the back of whatever rank and file union support your party had. Because, I mean, we've already heard, we've seen many, many stories about this. For those who filed in late, we're going to be interviewing a couple of union members this evening, and we're going to be premiering that interview at 8 p.m. right here on our channel. I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know anything about these guys. We'll see. But from what I've read and what I've watched so far, this is a burn that is not going to heal anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. It's not the first straw. It's a last straw.
It's a last straw.
A lot of people. Right. This is, I mean, it's just capping off 30 years of the Democrats kicking unions in the teeth.
Right.
And you know, the whole way they're going about it is so scummy. The way that they are pretending, as you say, they don't have a choice. They do have a choice. They could give them this sick leave, and that's something they really want to keep out of the narrative. And it's just really, I don't blame politicians for politicianing, but I do blame the media for not informing the public. That's their job.
Yep.
It's their job to tell people, no, actually, we could give them sick leave, and to really explain to people how terrible the conditions these railroad workers are working in are. And also a point that Crystal Ball was making on Breaking Points is, it's already kind of dangerous that they're working almost with skeleton crews to maximize profits. You're going to see an exodus out of the railroad industry. How are they going to run their trains when all of these people quit after this? Why are they going to keep working like this?
Right. Exactly. I fear apparently our Twitch mob is in the house. We're getting a ton of Twitch comments in the feed now. Apparently Nikki raided. Oh, she raided. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for raiding.
Listen, Nikki, we don't understand with the raiding. You got to come. You got to explain to us.
Thank you for raiding this stream.
And with my parents, they used to talk about getting raided by the Cossacks.
Yeah, exactly.
They come raid the village.
Frank Worsham, thank you for the 678, my friend. Really appreciate that. Do you think enough Dems will ever exit to implement the Nader strategy? Doesn't this energy have to go somewhere? Time will tell, my friend. Dem exit was trending on Twitter, and you had a lot of people, even Cenk Uygur, talk about how the Dem exit is a right-wing setup. It's like, listen, when you screw over unions in broad daylight like this, that probably answers why Dem exit is trending. Like, don't you think, take the Occam's razor approach here. Don't you think a lot of people are furious about this? I mean, the New York Times just printed. They interviewed a guy who printed up, Union Joe T-shirts and was big into the Biden campaign. And, he's burned. He's burned. You cannot do this to people without there being some consequence, as we learned in a great 1998 film called The Big Lebowski.
You see what happens, Larry, when you fuck a stranger in the ass?
You see what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. What a great...
That's one of the guys we're interviewing tonight.
Yeah,
we have breaking news. According to Robert Penner, who, from everything I've heard, he's a reliable source. The 7-day sick leave just failed in the Senate, 52-43.
Yeah, well, we knew that.
The strike busting motion passed 80-15.
Wow. There you go. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Hold on. I have to pull this up one more time here. I'm sorry, but I have to pull this up one more time. because it's too important not to. It's just too hilarious. I thought we were going to move on from this, and which is why I have to filibuster and set this up a little bit here, because we were past this point in the show.
All right.
But this is just one more time. I just have to bring this up again. We fumbled this in Build Back Better. We can't do that again. Well, you just did. It's now official that you just did fumble this again.
Well, and then they're going
The
to come.
bipartisan bill passed and the progressive bill failed. And you, Jamal Bowman, voted to push both through. So what the fuck are you doing saying we can't do this again? That's strike two. That's strike two.
Well, and then when the elections roll around, we're going to take all of this shit, not only from the shit libs, you get it from the Bernie people who still, for whatever reason, are believe in this inside strategy. Oh, well, you're just negative and you're dissuading people from getting involved in the political process. No, we're not dissuading people. The Democrats are dissuading people. Why would they get involved? Why would they get invested when they see that you do nothing for them? It's all platitudes. It's all empty gestures. This is a perfect example. Oh, no, we voted for that bill that we knew wasn't going to pass.
Right.
Now come vote for us again. Why?
Right.
Why?
Exactly. That's 100% right. Frank says, isn't the Nader strategy the only solution? I don't know that a Nader strategy is viable. What I can tell you, the real solution...
I like the Tuileries strategy.
What the solution in the short term is, and, this is something that, is going to be uncomfortable for some people, but the only actual solution to this is for these railroad workers to say you can take your bipartisan bill and shove it up your ass.
They're
have 2
talking
feet,
about it.
and we're not going to work without sick leave, whether you pass your bullshit fucking bill or not.
They're
That's
talking
the
about
solution.
wildcatting. They're talking
That's the
about
solution.
it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it.
You're right.
That's it.
You're right.
Well, it wouldn't just be a
do it
wildcat.
anyway.
I mean, it wouldn't just be a wildcat. This would actually be an illegal strike.
Right.
It would be illegal. Wildcat is when you don't have the approval of management. This would be you don't have the approval of Congress. Right. That's the only thing that would change it.
That'll be great PR. Yeah, go start arresting railroad workers.
Exactly.
That'll look great.
That's the only way. Nader, a third party. I mean, you're talking about decades out if it's possible at all. What they can do now is what I just said. Oh yeah. Well, we have feet, and we're not moving them to go to work unless we get some sick leave. So your move.
And they
your
can just,
fucking move.
and
you
they can just
fucking
quit.
pigs.
They can quit en masse.
They can quit.
That's not illegal.
That's what
not
I was also
illegal.
going to say. I was also going to say that. That's a more severe option. They could say, okay, we're not allowed to strike. Fine. We're not striking. We quit. That's it. We're not coming. We're not coming. Fuck you.
Right. You can't
now you
force
really
them to
got
work.
a problem because now you got no one to run the trains. Now you got no trains. Now you don't just have a strike. Now you got to hire all new people to run your fucking trains.
Now you got to get Mussolini. He knew how to get the trains running at least.
Extra Bulla, thank you for the $5, my friend. Anybody who trusts deals from the Democrats deserve the bum deal they're going to ultimately receive. People should know better by now. Yeah, I mean, look, I can't argue with that. The reason they took this in September is because despite all this fuckery, the unions and the Democrats are still partners to a certain extent. And so the unions did the Democrats a favor. It looked like the Democrats were going to suffer a red wave. That red wave would have been 10 times higher if there was a railroad strike and a true run on clean drinking water, oil for heating. Like, you could have had a total meltdown if there was a strike. But once again, even that conceit that I just gave you plays into the false choice that we have to actually choose between screwing the workers and this sort of apocalyptic reality that a strike would usher in. The third option is the pro-labor president, quote unquote, could have intervened and said, they're getting the sick leave. Done. Congress, pass it. Get it to my desk. You talk about turning the screws on the GOP, right? If you really wanted to fuck the Republicans, that's what you would do. Because then if the Republicans blocked it, they would be tanking, right? They would be tanking things, right? But instead, no, they gave McConnell an out. They said, here, vote for the bipartisan thing. These workers are going to have to go another 2 years post-pandemic, where many of them already got sick. Some of them died. Some of them had to stay home sick without pay for a couple weeks. Just unbelievable.
Well, and then you're totally screwed because you're in an industry that didn't shut down, so you can't get the unemployment.
Well, right, because you're an essential worker.
You're screwed.
You're an essential worker. You can't go on unemployment.
Anybody who worked in supermarkets, delis, bike stores, anything
that was
like
not
that,
available
you
to
didn't
them.
get to get the unemployment.
Colin Radix Carter, thank you, my friend. I appreciate the $4.99. The biggest mistake, when you guys are monetized, I'm going to hit you back. You guys are almost at 1,000 subs. And when you guys are monetized, we're keeping no ledger of these super chats. We'll hit you guys back. But thank you very much. He's part of the Indie News Network. I think you're coming up on 900 subs, so you'll be in the wonderful world of YouTube monetization, where you have to think about every word you say 5 times before you say it, if you want to keep that privilege. The biggest mistake the workers made was telling them when they planned on striking. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how that works, but they do. I mean, they had a deadline, and they. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because I don't know the politics of how a union works, how they have to announce that and things like that.
They gotta go Secaucus 7, man. They gotta meet in an old barn.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Shh. Okay, I'm gonna signal with the light at 3 o'clock.
Okay. I just because this is just too funny that I got this while we're right in the middle of the show.
Let me just read this gag real quick. Pete Buttigieg made the trains run on time to his wine caves. That's a good one. Good one, Robert, and thank you. Go ahead.
We need a writer. Hi, Russell. It's Senator Schumer. I urgently need you to sign our petition to protect voting rights. Republicans are trying to stop millions of Americans' votes from being counted, and we can't let them get away with it. Please add your name now to defend the sacred right to vote, as long as you're not voting for sick leave in a union.
Yeah, right. No, just unbelievable. Incredible.
Sending that out right as this vote is happening in the Senate.
Bippin, our patron here in the private chat, says, does this also mean that Congress can make any strike illegal? What does illegal mean here? Well, no, they have specific authority when it comes to railroads because railroads are this essential function. That's about 100-year-old law. I think it was passed during the 20s that Congress can intervene in this specific area. So, no, like if the Wendy's workers wanted to strike, they couldn't block that.
Well, like
yes, give it 30 more years, they'll pass something.
People need their double.
The Burger King, McDonald's, and Arby's bill.
Just to they'll call it the Fargo bill.
Yeah.
Just to throw in a little tour guide fun. So we have the High Line here in New York, which used to be the industrial railroad that ran through New York, and it was abandoned for decades. And when they proposed turning it into basically an elevated park, which is what it is now, they actually had to get the permission of the federal government to do that because of this bill, because railroads are considered a national strategic resource. If you're going to make any alterations in the rail system, you need to get the permission of the Department of the Interior, I think.
Okay, interesting. All right, we got another segment that we have to get to, and then we got to be back on at 5:30, so we have to wrap this show in about 20 minutes tops. But before we do that, before we exit this segment entirely, we give, Hollywood a lot of shit on this show. Most of these Hollywood people are just, virtue signaling, pea-brained lowlifes. But we got to give credit where credit is due here. There is one based take coming out of Tinseltown, and that is from good old Danny DeVito. So this was Danny DeVito saying initially, because he made the mistake, as a lot of people did, of trusting Joe Biden to actually intervene in the right way. He said, while you're fixing things with the railroad, get them to pass the Equality Act affording civil rights to the LGBTQ community and extend the child tax credit. How about the $35 cap on insulin? All's I'm saying, a few things already passed in the House. Come on, buddy. Now,
that's pretty mild.
Well, here's the thing. He said, while you're fixing things with the railroad, he was under the assumption that Biden was going to do what we said he could do, but is choosing not to, which is intervene on the union's behalf to force through terms that the union wants. When he learned that wasn't the case, he says, no, Joe, you're supposed to help the railroad workers. You got it backwards. See? So he gets it. He understands what's
Yeah.
up. You were
Yeah.
supposed to intervene to help them, not to screw them. You got it backwards. A handful of sick days. Come on. Workers of the world, unite. Danny DeVito, everybody. I'll
Thank
take
you.
Danny DeVito over Rob Reiner any day.
Yeah. That's why you don't see as much of Danny DeVito as you do of Rob Reiner.
Well,
That's not a voice that they want out there.
when Danny DeVito tweeted out support for the Nabisco workers who were threatening to strike, Twitter, this was back in the Jack Dorsey era, they didn't block him entirely, but they took his blue check mark away from him after he tweeted that out.
Did
and then
they
they
really?
reinstated it like a week later. Yeah.
Well, and then you have all of these ship libs are furious about Elon Musk, but the Jack Dorsey days that was Nirvana, right? That was when things were being run the way they should be run. There was no arbitrary exercise of power then.
Exactly. No, right, exactly. And that segues into another big tech segment that we're going to do in just a moment. Figure we'll take a small game break here. Like I said, not much time left because we have an interview that we are recording that will not be live streamed. We are recording that interview at 5:30, and we're going to drop that at 8 p.m. this evening, assuming technically everything works right, which, knock on wood, it should. But we want to, once again, take a little game break to thank our patrons. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/do dissidents. You guys have been pretty generous with the super chats this afternoon, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Super
We
chats
appreciate that.
also help a lot.
I didn't have to do the sound drop today.
Right. Usually at around the 53-minute mark is when we start complaining that you're a bunch of cheap bastards who don't donate enough. But today, I think you guys did great with that. So thank you guys. Exactly. This is usually when we have to get very petulant and pissy and guilt you guys into coughing up some money. But today you actually were very generous. So thank you guys very much.
I mean, I've thought about fostering cats just so I can threaten them live.
Yeah, right.
Get people to donate. If you don't donate, the cat gets it.
By the way, if you're on Twitch, subscribe to our Twitch channel. We don't know how to promote our Twitch channel, so whenever we have Twitch viewers, it's important that you subscribe because we don't know how to reach you otherwise. We're completely clueless about Twitch.
We got to reach out to Nikki. Nikki is our Twitch whisperer.
Should we play a video game while we do this? Should we have Call of Duty going
put her
in the foreground?
masthead.
Yeah, we should.
Do Dissidents masthead. She's our Twitch specialist.
All right. Are you there? Did you freeze? Oh, you freeze for a brief second. That's okay. No, you're back.
Still here? All right.
Yep. Just a little buffer. A little buffer never killed anybody. All right. So let's do this one final segment here before we wrap, because like I said, we are a bit time pressed this afternoon. But speaking of big tech here, Apple limited a crucial AirDrop function in China just weeks before protests. So there are obviously lockdown protests happening in China right now as the zero COVID policy or the zero schmovid policy, seems to have backfired in the sense that, according to the Washington Post, not according to us, as you'll see in a second, they don't have enough natural immunity to keep everything at zero forever. And so now they're trapped in this situation where they need to keep the lockdowns. Otherwise, there's going to be an explosion in new cases. And people are kind of fed up with that after a few years. And so they are protesting. And Apple limited, like I said, a crucial AirDrop function in China just weeks before the protests. So what the AirDrop feature is, for those who have iPhones, means you don't need an internet connection to transfer images or words between phones. You can just drop it from one phone to the other, like a virtual game of catch. Hey, you toss the message over to that phone, boom, it drops there. Right. In China, where internet is heavily monitored, this was sort of a workaround for people. And so Apple issued this new software update specifically for China, which only allowed the AirDrop feature for up to 10 minutes at a time before it was turned off, which, of course, stopped people from communicating in ways that the government could not monitor. And so this is another example of big tech partnering with the state to impose its will, right? Russell, go ahead.
Yes. So there are a couple of angles on this story that really fucking infuriate me, because this happens to be coming up at exactly the same moment that there's this drive in shitlib land to do something about Elon Musk running Twitter. We must do something about this. They just cannot accept that they're going to lose, because you're seeing already that the media is doing the same Lucy and the football thing that they always do with the libs. They're doing the walls are closing in thing about Twitter. Oh yeah, no, Twitter's doomed. No, it's doomed. It's not. He's not going to be able to work it out. And actually, it looks like he's working it out. Yeah. Oh, all these workers are leaving. Exactly. He needed them all to leave to completely change the way this company runs. He needed to completely change the culture of the company. What do you think he didn't know when he sent out that email that you have to commit to 100% work ethic, that a lot of them were going to quit? That's why he did it. They're playing it in the media to their brain dead libs like, oh, see, and hundreds of people quit. That's what he wanted. He said before he took over, he wanted to get rid of 75% of the workers. And then when he got called out on it, he was like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. But then he did it without doing it. He did it.
Maybe if the railroad workers walk out, they can start running the trains. These fired Twitter employees. They fit right in. I think they'd make good railroad.
They'll really fit in with the culture of railroad workers there. So
a lot of microaggressions on the rail lines, though. They might have to, they might have a tough time adjusting for that.
It's known for its microaggressions. Actually, yeah. I think there are 47 train stations named Microaggression Junction across the United States. Just a fun fact. Exactly. So they keep saying, oh, Twitter's going to collapse. And, the media is promising them Twitter is going to collapse. And it keeps not collapsing. And we said this from the beginning. Musk is the richest man in the world. He has a lot of fucking runway to get this worked out. That's A. B, as you could tell from dipshits like Alyssa Milano tweeting out how much they hate the new Twitter, tweeting out, these people are not going anywhere. Right. If the user use is up. So ultimately, he is going to get this worked out. It's not just gonna collapse. So you are going to get a Twitter that is more in line with free speech principles, where people that libs may not agree with, heavens forbid, are going to be. They are so desperate not to see that result that they did what they do. They've been trying to work the refs. One of those refs is Apple. They've been trying to pressure Apple to take Twitter off of the App Store. At the same exact moment, they have absolutely nothing to say about Apple shutting down the ability of protesters in China to communicate with each other. So what, you tell me, what's the greater evil? These poor fucking people who just burned to death in an apartment building in China having their ability to communicate against this horrific police state that they live in, having their ability to communicate taken away by Apple, or Elon Musk letting Jordan Peterson tweet? You tell me what the greater evil is.
Right, because Apple could have just said, no, we're not going to do it. We're hands off, right? But they didn't want to lose the market, right? They didn't want to lose that contact. They didn't want to lose the connect, right?
Well, so just like Disney will, cover up the Black Panther's face when they're marketing over there, and
they made John Cena. I forget what John Cena.
John Cena. Oh yeah. That video is
one of the most.
It's one of the most cringe things I've ever.
He thanked the country of Taiwan for being hospitable to their filming, and then I forget what studio that was. Was that Disney or was that another one? I forget what studio it was.
I'm not
sure. Whoever, they said, no, you have to take that back because China doesn't acknowledge Taiwan as an independent country. So you have to take that back.
No, they made him apologize on video in Chinese. He literally apologized in Chinese.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, my God, man. So, nonetheless, Peacemaker is pretty funny. But that aside, it's such an illustration of the hypocrisy of all of these moral panics and moral stands that they take. Really? Elon Musk letting Jordan Peterson and Donald Trump on Twitter is worse than what Apple is doing? Apple has been known for decades to employ slave labor overseas. But
Yeah.
Twitter is what you have a problem with. Now, it looks like Apple's not going to take them off. I don't know what Elon said, but he went and had a tete-a-tete at Apple headquarters with Tim Cook.
Yeah, and he came out saying it was a miscommunication. So who knows what went on there?
Who knows what he threatened to retaliate with? That's my read on it.
Right.
He threatened something. Also,
right, because it couldn't have just been a misunderstanding. That's PR, right? Because if it was a misunderstanding, they wouldn't have had a meeting.
It was
like,
not
if
a
this was never a
misunderstanding,
threat, like if Apple never threatened to pull Twitter off the App Store, then they wouldn't have needed a face-to-face. It would have been a media thing. They would have both come out and said, hey, this is bullshit, and that would have been that. We'd have moved on. Right.
They had to have a sit down for whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
And also Musk is threatening. Now, I suspect he's kind of holding this as a bomb. He's threatening to release the internal communications around the Hunter Biden laptop and how the decision was arrived at to suppress it and who leaned on them and
I think
what
that's
kinds of
come out
agreements
anyway.
they made. But I think the only reason he might not have released it yet is to hold it over their heads. Like, hey, I mean, not necessarily Apple, but
no, I understand
Washington. Like, hey, I got access to all the closets now.
Right.
I can release all kinds of damaging communiques that have gone on between the company and Washington over the years. Do you want that? Are you ready for that? So that could be a card that he's holding over them. Another level on which this has been amazing to me is if you want to see any coverage about what's going on in China, and particularly about what Apple has done, you pretty much exclusively need to go to right-wing media. I've seen it on Paul Joseph Watson. I've seen it on Tucker Carlson. I haven't even seen alternative media covering that, except I think maybe Breaking Points might have done something on it. I'm not saying nobody in alternative media has covered it, but it's not a very prominent story, even in alternative left media. And in the corporate media, you have to go to the right to see any coverage of this, which once again, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. If you watch Tucker Carlson's episode on this, that's a classic left position that he's expressing. It's a classic left position. Anti-totalitarian, anti-corporate. How dare they take away the voice of the people? And there are I still don't understand why he's on a corporate network and they let him do this. I don't know why Fox gives their anchors more latitude. They're certainly no friends to freedom and the working class in terms of their management. I don't know why they allow it, but they do. But outside of the right wing, in terms of corporate media, that's it. That's the only place you're really going to see honest coverage of this, which is bizarre. I'm sitting there yesterday and I'm watching Tucker Carlson make a speech that this is the speech Abby Hoffman would be making if he were alive about this. Like, but you can't find that anywhere on the left.
Right. No, absolutely. 100%. Economic Justice Warrior is one of our patrons. He's in the chat right now. If you would like to say hello, you can unmute your microphone. You just sent us a request for a Rumble link. I just sent that back to you. If you guys do watch via Rumble, we have a few people watching on Rumble right now. Unfortunately, the Rumble comments, if you comment on the stream via Rumble, we don't get that in our streaming software. So I'm trying to keep a Rumble window open so I can read any comments that we get through there. So that's the only thing to know. If you're commenting with us on Rumble, it might take us a little while to actually notice them, since I have to keep Rumble in a separate window for the streaming software to work. All right, guys. Well, we got to wrap because we got to be doing an interview in 25 minutes with a couple of union workers from the BMWED. They are threatening to strike. Obviously, it seems like that effort has been busted, but we want to get their take on everything, and we're really looking forward to that. So we do have to get out of here so we can prep for that. But thank you guys very much. This was a great stream. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you to everybody who gave super chats. Patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also sign up at DoDissidents.substack.com. We will be premiering our interview with the BMWED union workers tonight at 8 p.m. on this channel. So tune in once more for that in a few hours. And we'll see you guys all back here on Sunday. That's everything, right, Russell?
That's everything.
All right. Beautiful.
Thank you, dissidents.
Thank you, dissidents. We're going to leave you. We played this earlier in the stream, but just to, I think this is really an important piece of sound, so we're going to let this play us out here before I go to the outro. Thank you guys very much. Be back here at 8 p.m., and we'll see you here again on Sunday. Thanks. Be well.
You work as a teacher, and I work as a railroader, and he works as a trucker, and she works as a nurse, and he works in a coffee shop. We're all part of the working people that make society run. We're all part of the working class that produces the wealth. And without us, nothing could happen. And so when one of us is under attack, we're all under attack. When one sector of us fights back, we all need to support that struggle and see it as our own. And so I would say to every working person in this country, whether you work on the railroad or not, if and when there is a strike anywhere amongst any craft or any industry, you as a working person should be there to support it in whatever ways you can. And so I would encourage all working people to have our back if and when we go on strike.
Please clap.